Reducing food waste saves impacts, from production to the end of life, all along the supply chain and the resources and energy that go into that.
Welcome to Season 3 of Food Waste Matters, the podcast where we have those conversations about the fight against food waste. So each episode we talk to people who are finding smarter ways to make the most of our food, from farmers and businesses to researchers and industry leaders. But reducing food waste isn't just about the environment. It's also about supporting our local growers, saving money, and making sure perfectly good food doesn't go to waste. So if you're looking for practical ideas, real conversations, and actionable solutions, Food Waste Matters is for you. Hello and welcome to another episode of Food Waste Matters. Now, I'm your host, Dr. Joanne Freeman from Honey & Fox, and today we're taking a closer look at the role businesses and communities play in reducing food waste and how these businesses and communities can be supported to do it better. Today I'm joined by Ryan Collins from Planet Ark, an organisation many of you might know for its work in recycling and sustainability. But their impact goes beyond that. Planet Ark has been in the forefront of environmental education and action in Australia for decades, helping individuals, businesses and governments make real lasting change. Ryan's work focuses on developing programs and research that drives positive environmental behaviour and supports the shift to a circular economy. So today we'll be talking about their initiatives, including the Australian Circular Economy Hub and other resources available to help businesses turn waste into opportunities. So first off, can you give us a bit of an overview of Planet Ark and how it actually came about?
Yeah, sure. So Planet Ark was founded over 30 years ago, and it was founded to provide positive environmental actions for everyone. So that meant bringing people, business and governments together to enable positive environmental change. Now we have a vision where a world where people thrive and in balance with nature, and we know, or our mission is to do that by transitioning to a net zero circular economy. People may know Planet Ark from various things: National Recycling League, National Tree Day. One of our latest initiatives is the Australian Circular Economy Hub, or ACE Hub. And people may even know us from back in the day when there used to be Christmas card collections in supermarkets and for recycling, back when curbside recycling was more or less common. So we've been around for a while. We use behaviour change through our campaigns, behaviour change science, to try and enact change. And most of our comms are about being positive.
So I've had a good hunt around your website, and it looks as though you've got some fabulous initiatives, including the ACE Hub, which I'm involved with, but we'll talk about that more later. So you also run a whole range of sustainability programs. So how does food waste fit into the bigger picture of what you do?
Yeah, well, we work in three kind of spheres of activity. As I mentioned before, circular economy, net zero carbon, but also connecting with nature. Food production, as we know, is one of the greatest contributions to climate change and greenhouse gas emissions. So, addressing food waste is critical to fighting climate change and transitioning to a circular economy. Reducing food waste saves impacts, from production to the end of life, all along the supply chain and the resources and energy that go into that. We have food waste kind of integrated into our different programs and campaigns. As I mentioned before, National Recycling Week, and we also have other tools like Business Recycling and Recycling Near You that provide practical solutions. So we kind of move from education and raising awareness, also championing business leaders in the space through case studies, through to the practical tools and solutions for business and households.
And I saw on your website again that you do have some great resources and tools specifically for businesses. What are some of those successful partnerships or programs where businesses have effectively minimized food waste through some of your initiatives?
Yeah, well, I mentioned before business recycling. So that's actually being transitioned into the Recycling Near You website, which has greater reach, predominantly aimed at households, but business recycling, the directory is moving into Recycling Near You. And business recycling lists solutions for businesses for all sorts of materials. Like there's like 90 plus materials that are listed, and food scraps, food waste, organics is part of that. So we get around 400 businesses that view the food waste section of that website, looked at, and they're looking for recycling or composting solutions. And then through surveys, we found that around 10 to 20% will find and implement a solution. So we think we're helping around 40 to 80 businesses per year divert food scraps from landfill. So yeah, so that's the recycling kind of tool that we provide there for businesses. I think it's interesting to know we'll be having some research launching soon, or it may have launched by the time the podcast goes to air, on the business attitudes to recycling and other sustainable behaviours. And we use research as a way to create campaigns for behaviour change. And in this one in particular, we surveyed over 250 Australian businesses, a mix of small to large, different industries. And we found that around 42% generate organic waste, a quarter generate leftover food waste, and then a quarter also generate inedible food scrap waste. And then around 15% say they donate or resell leftover food, and around 1/3 say they get that food waste recycled. So that means there's around, half of the business surveyed sending that food waste to landfill, which is, there's a great opportunity there. There's a lot that can be done to create a circular economy in that space. And food was actually one of the 3 areas that we focused on, where we try to provide some solutions and opportunities for businesses. Some of those tips aren't about reinventing the wheel. We point to other resources like Love Food Hate Waste or the Food Waste CRC, because we don't want to duplicate what's already out there.
And so, Ryan, one of the staggering statistics is that our commercial and industrial waste makes up, 1/3 of the total waste generated here in Australia. And, in a previous project, I was talking to a lot of small food manufacturers and producers in South Australia. And one of the challenges that they had, because they knew that they had food waste, was that issue of trying to get it to a food bank or a community organisation so that they could move it on, simply because those facilities weren't available in that region. And so, it was either going to animal feed, or, as you said, it was going to the tip, where it was actually perfectly good food.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Australia's such a big company, and obviously there's the urban experience and the regional experience, and it is really tough in regional areas for not just finding solutions for food waste, but for other materials as well.
So Planet Ark has always been a strong advocate for composting and organic waste solutions. How can businesses integrate composting into their operations? And, what are some of the benefits of doing this for a business?
Yeah, well, I think one of the first steps, and of course it depends on the size of the business, but one of the first steps is to look at your waste. And that means doing a waste audit or a waste assessment. If it's a small business, you can probably do that yourselves. Otherwise, there are people, there are consultants and also government initiatives that can help with that. And then next step would be in terms of food waste, would be to look for organics recyclers, recycling providers. We can help with that aspect because we've got a choosing the right recycler guide that helps businesses ask the right questions of recyclers to make sure that they're, taking responsibility, being responsible and fulfilling their legal obligations. One of the other aspects that SMEs might like to look at is exploring equipment, on-site equipment, small equipment like dehydrators or food compactors down to, bins and kitchen caddies to help reduce it helps reduce the space that goes into managing waste and improving processes and potentially, reducing collection costs as well. And then one kind of overall step, I think, is to involve staff to get that buy-in because you're going to need staff involved to, to dispose of the food waste appropriately. In terms of the benefits, obviously, there's potential cost savings in that in a lot of states in Australia, they have waste levies. So if that waste is going to landfill, then you're paying a levy. And then, as I said, there's equipment to help reduce collection frequencies. And then, so those organics are no longer going into the general waste bins. It can make your operations more efficient. And then, if you've got staff involved, we've done surveys that show that staff are happier if they know that their efforts are going to improve their environmental impact.
So I know your education and awareness programs are, all about trying to do that, make that change behaviour. So how aware are businesses now about waste, and also how aware are they about resources and initiatives that are available to them?
Yeah, well, in terms of a circular economy perspective, we released a report in 2023 looking at perception, awareness and knowledge of circular economy in business, and that's all levels of business. And we found that the awareness of the term circular economy is quite high. 82% of business decision makers were aware of the term circular economy. However, actual knowledge on what the concept is and defining the concept is quite low. So only 35% could correctly define what a circular economy was, and that was from a multiple choice answer. However, 82% said that the circular economy is important for the future of their business. So there's this awareness and there's this, motivation, but the knowledge is where we need to improve. That's across, when you're going to the other R's of the circular economy and going down to reducing food waste or recycling food waste, those are areas where knowledge, needs to improve. One other interesting thing is that over half said that reducing costs was a benefit of the circular economy. So they're aware of these benefits, or some are aware of these benefits. They're aware that it's important for their business, but there's kind of a gap in knowledge and potentially knowing what to do after that.
That's interesting because, as you know, I did a lot of research in regional South Australia, and what you're saying exactly supported my findings. Is there was awareness. They did want to do something about it, and they knew it was their responsibility. But that gap about the knowledge, what are the clear benefits and how do they go about it? And also, when you were saying the circular economy, one of the things they mentioned was, we've got to drop the jargon and really call it what it is as well. So, I'm glad to see that that all the research is pointing to, the same challenge, and that's that knowledge piece.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest misconceptions businesses have? What does Planet Ark do to try to shift that conversation towards solutions instead of just another thing that they have to do in their business?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest misconceptions or myths is that, food waste isn't a recycling issue. It's not a circular economy issue. It's not a climate change issue even. And that if it goes to landfill, it's okay. It biodegrades. I think there's definitely that misconception that it doesn't matter what happens to food waste. So there is, as I mentioned, that education piece there. Information, though, is not necessarily enough to change behaviour. It's always necessary. But with our our communications. Like we try and understand what the drivers and the motivations are of the audience that we need to change the behavior of. So we try to use behavior change tips backed by brain science, and some of this we have as a resource on our Recycling Near You website, and aimed at like sustainability managers and others that need to communicate to their colleagues. But it can be used by, these are great strategies to use in any way to communicate to an audience. But some of those, like for an example, we try to link to positive desires and aspirations and like pride rather than guilting people, because pride is a better behavior change tool than guilting people. So an example, like say you're in a workplace and you've started a new food waste initiative, being able to measure what you've saved and then communicating about that, whether it's a poster saying, we saved X kilograms of food from landfill last year, which means this amount of greenhouse gas emissions were saved. You're providing a message about tangible achievements. It's kind of instilling this collective pride within your staff. And then it's also using positive social proof, because it's kind of demonstrating that a lot of people are doing the right thing. Another example, which I mentioned before, is valuing people's roles in the workplace. So, people want to feel valued, they don't want to feel competent, and they want to have agency and, some amount of control. So getting staff involved early when you're looking to introduce new initiatives, help with ideas, and making sure your decisions are based on evidence. One of my favorite tips comes from a study of 42 different psychological studies. It's a relatively old study now, back in 2012, but it involved over 22,000 people in all those studies. And it found that the "but you are free" technique, which is reminding people that they have a choice, was found to double the chances of someone saying yes to a request. So that, "but you are free to choose," or words to that effect, really respect people's autonomy. And then, it has that happy side effect of making them more open to persuasion. So there's these sorts of little tools, reinforcing, thanking people for recycling rather than saying, "don't put this in the wrong bin." Having that positive messaging is really a tool that we use.
I'm loving some of that terminology, is that collective pride, positive social proof, valuing people's roles. I think that's a really good one. And I'm liking this. You are free to choose. So it's all about positive, and there's no negative, or as you said, there's no guilt tripping associated with us. One of the other great resources that you have is your hub. Now, tell us about your hub and, how businesses can get involved and some of the benefits being part of the hub provides to them.
Yeah, well, the ACE Hub was created back in 2020. So it's many things, actually. It's a website that has, different levels of information, and it links to reports and guides and things about the circular economy. One of the major things that we like to provide case studies, as I mentioned before, so that they inspire and also demonstrate tangible examples of how circular economy can be successful. A couple of those that are, I guess, related to food include the Bardee case study, which is a facility that uses black soldier flies to convert food waste into fertilizer and animal protein. So that's like an end-of-life solution. And then another one is Yume Food. So they're a surplus food management platform, and they're, ensuring that the value in the food is consumed. So it's taking action just before the end of life. The ACE Hub also has a portal, the ACE Hub portal. So it's kind of like a social media site for circular economy experts and those that are interested in the circular economy. It's a collaboration portal. So we've got people from government, from business, from education and community groups. We've got
universities, I know as well. Yep.
Yeah, universities, of course. There's over 2,400 active members now, and we've got some nice stories of where it's helped different parties connect with experts. So, for example, we've got a council that connected with a food waste management company that services other big companies like supermarkets that have big volumes of food. It's helped consultants connect with technology and restaurants that are championing food waste initiatives or reduction initiatives. And that included, using AI cameras to track what gets thrown in the bin. And it's also helped, an online meal delivery service connect with complex packaging and food waste solutions and, getting ideas and finding out about different technologies that could help provide a solution. And kind of each of those case studies has had, 10 experts helping them. So it's really a collaborative space that we're quite proud of.
And so, Ryan, looking ahead, what future projects or goals does Planet Ark have to keep assisting businesses in that fight to reduce food waste?
Yeah, well, we either will have launched or will be about to launch the new Recycling Near You website. So it's basically going to be the one-stop shop for all recycling, so both at home and for businesses. That's, we think, is really going to help businesses find the right solutions that they're looking for, because often they find solutions for household recycling rather than for business recycling, and the two do differ. Of course, we encourage people to join the ACE Hub portal. It's free to join, and join that collaboration circle. And then we have further down the track, we've got National Recycling Week in November, and we often have workplace engagement resources. So some of them might be like ready-made presentations that perhaps a sustainability manager can present to staff. We've got trivia packs so they can hold, recycling and waste trivia. So those are some of the things coming up. We'll also be reviewing our organisational strategies. So we'll be looking at ways to integrate food waste even more, I think, into our programs and campaigns.
So, Ryan, I'll make sure I include all of those links in our show notes as well. So just to recap, it's Recycling Near You, of course, the ACE Hub, also Planet Ark, and there was one more.
There's the portal, the ACE Hub portal.
Yes.
Yeah. National Recycling Week, which is found on Recycling Near You as well.
And the Business Recycling Program as well.
Yeah, so that will be integrated into Recycling Near You. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming to speak with us today. There's obviously so much work that's gone on, and it's great to see so many resources being developed, particularly to help businesses in that fight against food waste. So thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, it's been a pleasure.
Well, that was a really interesting conversation with Ryan Collins from Planet Ark. It's great to know there's some practical resources to help businesses rethink waste, adopt circular economy principles, and make a real difference when it comes to food waste. Whether it's through better packaging choices, waste reduction strategies, or using the resources available through Planet Ark, which includes the soon-to-launch Recycling Near You website. If you'd like to learn more about Planet Ark and their work, head over to their website at www.planetark.org. We've also included links to the Australian Circular Economy Hub and other useful links in our show notes. And as always, if you have questions, feedback, or a great story about food waste reduction that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you. So just drop us a line at foodwastematters@honeyandfox.com.au. Don't forget, you can catch up on all our previous episodes on YouTube or your favourite podcast platform, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. So thanks for tuning into Food Waste Matters. Let's keep the conversation going and continue finding ways to reduce food waste together. So until next time.